Hey everybody, Chris Scalzo here with,
Matt Howell.
which I'll be redoing this whole intro again when the show actually starts. But we just want to take a minute. We've been doing there's been a lot of death, right? 2020, for all of its other joys and gifts that it's been bringing us, there's been a lot of people who have passed away. And yesterday was Eddie Van Halen. Now, typically we just play an audio clip from a film, from some actor, director, whomever it is that has passed away. But I don't want to avoid any kind of copyright strikes and stuff, so
Sure.
I'm not going to be playing any Van Halen music. So
Sure.
I just want to take a quick second and talk about Eddie Van Halen. He was a big influence on me, Matt, growing up. I don't think I really jumped in. I mean, I knew all the classic rock stuff, right, that would play on 99 Rock, WPLR, right, coming out of Hamden, Connecticut. But it was the Van Hagar that really brought me in, specifically When It's Love from OU812. All right, that was really the first thing that really got me. And I bought that album on tape. And then I kind of expanded from there and started buying a whole bunch of their stuff. So it was a big thing, man. I mean, that guy was a legend. It's just a major, major loss. Was Van Halen formative for you at all growing up? I know you're 15 years younger than me, so maybe outside of that window.
No, not really. I'll have to admit, I was never a huge fan of a lot of that kind of hair arena rock that transformed into hair metal, which I wouldn't consider Van Halen hair metal, but
No.
it kind of the grandfathers of that. If I had to choose, I would choose the Gary Sharon era. No, just kidding. I would go with the Diamond Dave era personally.
Sure.
I think Eddie's guitar playing was a lot more raw. It was a lot more electric. It has most of the like classic riffs and songs that you really think of. Like the opening riff to Ain't Talking About Love is still like one of the most iconic things you can learn to play when you learn to play guitar. That's always my era. I always felt like he kind of mellowed out into like dad rock a little bit once Hagar came along.
It's my wheelhouse.
You know what? You do you. Yeah, you do you.
Well, no, I agree. I always used to say that they were a better band with Sammy Hagar, but they were more fun with David Lee Roth.
Yes, I would say that's true. I mean, they're definitely a much more polished band with Sammy Hagar, but for just sheer fun, like Chris said, I mean, you got to go with the Diamond Dave stuff. But
For sure.
yeah, I mean, he was an influence. I mean, obviously, just an excellent guitarist. You know, just a legend. You know, the story is that he did a guitar solo for "Beat It." He walked in, did 2 takes, and walked out, and that's all they needed. So yeah, it's a major loss. You know, especially with the kind of lack of interest in guitar-based music, especially from what's popular these days. It's the legends are starting to go, man. It's a sad fact.
Is
And this
guitar
was
dead?
way earlier than I thought. I don't know if guitar's dead. I mean, it's interesting to me. So I was watching some advertisement for Masterclass, and they had Deadmau5 on, who's like a big, electronic music, dance music DJ. And he's sitting there, and he's making the music on the computer, and he's making all these noises, and he's saying to himself, if I knew how to write this, if I knew music, I would do it, but I have to kind of figure it out by how I want it to sound. And I think you're losing a lot of that. Like people losing theory, they're losing, how to play instruments, and they're using technology to kind of do things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do. I heard Charlie Puth say, who's like this famous pop singer. He was like, I use autotune because I want to have my voice go into high F, but I can't do that naturally. But I want the note to be high F. So it's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, I think there's always going to be a place for guitar. I just don't know if it'll ever again be as popular as it once was.
Yeah, I think the greatest musical betrayal I ever had was finding out that Bradley Depp did not hit that high note in Boston's More Than a Feeling and hold it. That Souls sped up the tape basically and then extended it out.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, no, I don't know if guitars, I think everything is cyclical. I think things kind of come around like right now. Well, I don't know if it's right now, but a year or so ago, because I'm so out of touch right now. But 80s synth has made a big comeback in music, So I think everything's cyclical. I think maybe at some point somebody will come around with a fresh new sound that'll basically just be the revival of guitar.
Sure. Indie bands, punk bands, all those bands are all still there. I mean, you can still find all that stuff. I mean, even look at Machine Gun Kelly, who is a crappy trap rapper. He just released he got together with Travis Barker and out of nowhere released a pop punk power pop album, and it's actually pretty good.
There you go. So anyway, rest in peace, Eddie. I think outside of Is It Love, Little Guitars from Diver Down is my favorite Roth era song. I just love a lot of that thing.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of very poppy, and it's not part of the air quotes hardcore rock that Van Halen did at that time.
Sure.
But they were always a party, silly band in a way anyway, let's be perfectly honest. And but they were a lot of fun. So rest in peace, Eddie. You will be missed. And let's get on with the show. Chris Scalzo here with
Matt Howell.
And on this episode of The First Run, Matt and I love horror anthologies. And Shudder premiered Glenn Danzig's Verotika a while back, so we thought, you know what, we've heard things, so let's go ahead and check it out for ourselves. Our Neo-Noir Marathon wraps up as well with 1974's Chinatown, which of course means it's time for our Marathon Awards. And we, of course, will run down the big releases on physical media featuring your straight-to-DVD and streaming picks of the week. But first off, everybody, let's start off things off with a... Wow, that's a little repetitive. I can't decide if I want to just edit this out. The problem is I don't know where the music ended.
Right.
And it's so...
I could have told you if I was paying attention. I'll start paying attention going forward.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
I think we should just leave all this gold in.
That's right. Let's start everything off with... Hell, if Danzig can do it, why can't we? Let's hear a clip from Verotika.
Hello? Francois? Is that you?
Dead yet? Please, ma petite, do not cry. It's not worth it.
Mahia, it happened again. And it was all going so well.
Then he's insensitive pig. Good riddance.
I know, you are right. But he was so cute.
They are cute. You will make your eyes puffy for your photo shoot tomorrow. The shoot? I forgot. If you need anything, I'm right under her, honey.
Good night. I will be just fine.
So that scene is right after she is having an intimate moment with a guy, and she has this peculiar body anomaly that freaks him out, that makes him run out of the room. So, Matt, why don't you spend a few minutes and tell everybody what Verotika is all about?
It's a horror anthology from Glenn Danzig, where, as you can guess off of the clever wordplay, it's some kind of attempt of mashup between horror and erotica, if you will, with just abysmal results.
That's fair. I think that's fair. If you're familiar with the Euro sleaze kind of movement with like Jess Franco and all that stuff, I think that's what we're going for here in a way.
Okay. All right.
But my question's for you, Matt. Great horror anthology or greatest horror anthology? Let me put it this way. Do we at least achieve The Room status of notoriety here?
See, that's the thing. So I struggled with this. To me, and I don't know, it didn't reach the levels of so bad it's good. Like, I wasn't having a great time watching how bad it was. There's no, you're tearing me apart moment in this. But God, yeah, it is bad. It's so bad. And I just didn't, I couldn't get on board with it, even as a kind of guilty laugh at it pleasure.
I agree. I will confess, Matt, I did laugh out loud quite a few times watching this because it's the like 80s porn movie level of acting. There's the incompetence really that galls me maybe the most. It's the utter lack of storytelling. There's the sections, the parts just kind of end. They drag on for like seems like an interminable amount of time. I feel like some of these segments. There's one part, Matt, where there's a woman standing in front of a mirror after bathing in blood for about 15 minutes in an above ground tub, which was weird. Is that weird? That was weird. And
well, I guess it was Middle Ages, right? Middle Ages, I suppose.
I guess. But then, so she's in that tub for 15 minutes, it feels like. And then she poses in front of the mirror, admiring the restorative powers of that. Mm-hmm. And it's like 2.5 minutes of her just voguing, basically, in the mirror. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And it's has these really kind of cheap set designs and effects and costumes and really everything you can think of. let me ask you a question. I'd never listened to the Misfits. I'm not familiar with Danzig as a musician at all. Is he a shit musician? Because the music, he also did the music for this in this film, and it's abysmal.
Yeah.
Much like everything else.
So Misfits, Danzig era Misfits, it's one of those things where you just have to go into it knowing that they're not great musicians, but it's still a lot of fun, just how kind of over the top and campy it is, and just how it has a lot of energy. I really enjoy Danzig Misfits. 3 power chords that are only downstroked are my jam. So I mean, that's what I go for. I'm not as familiar with his kind of quote unquote metal era of Danzig, except for that hit that he had in the late '90s, Mother. That's the only one I know of.
Oh, that's right, Mother. Yeah, I remember that now.
He's the punk rock Elvis, man.
Yeah. So that's one of the most infuriating things, though, is about there's no like story arc in any of these 3 parts, right? They're just snapshots in time. There's nothing happens. There's no resolution. There's no arc. There's no development. There's nothing. Like particularly the one with Mystery Girl, which is the woman who slices off the faces.
Right.
It sets up kind of like the cop's going to go out for revenge. He's going to hunt this person down, but nothing happens. Nothing happens. Yeah. And it just ends. And it's the whole film is like that. My favorite, though, of all the set design, just failures, is the strip club, which clearly is just Danzig's basement, I think. It's all I can think of. It's atrocious. I love, too, to pad out the running time, the fade outs in this film last like a good 5-10 Mississippi.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous. I feel like I could just pick on this. This thing is ripe and rife with opportunities for like an MST3K style riffing event. It really is.
Right.
Horrible. Did you find anything redeeming in this?
No, not at all. So, I mean, after the first one, I kind of paused it and I looked at how long it had been on. I'm like, man, that thing was on for a half hour, which I was blown away, by how long it was and how that didn't seem like it was long enough for how much I sat there and watched it, and how long it felt. But, like, it makes absolutely no sense. So, like, I don't even care if I spoil this. The whole thing with the eyeballs on breasts, like, sure. What was that even about? It comes up and it never comes up again throughout the whole thing. She's just walking
at
around.
The very end, the French police, because we're in France for some reason, that one of the cops points out that she has an eyeball on her breast.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know how that tied into the Goro monster that came, but whatever. It's just bad, and even the TNA in it, it's not even late 90s Skinamax, 3 a.m. Bear. I mean, it just looks cheap, like a soap opera. It's got that soap opera effect going on, shot on cheap cameras. The sets are cheap. The actors are not good. And the stories don't make any sense. It's just atrocious. And I was just annoyed. I was like, why am I watching this right now? Why did this come up? Because I had never heard of this. And I was like, oh, okay. So maybe Chris knows something that I don't. He does not.
The show follows Scott Wampler, who was previously one of the main guys at Birth Movies Death. May it rest in peace. He was fan is a way to describe it, but he would kind of say just how insane the film is, and he respected it for its choices and just, I don't know what. But I was hoping for some kind of room level stuff here, but it's just in a complete waste of time.
Yeah, it is.
I think I'm giving out my first F of the year.
Yeah, me too. This late, we're deep into the fourth quarter here, and giving out my first F for the year.
So Verotika is currently streaming on Shudder. Don't watch it. There must be thousands of things that are better and more worth your time. Last Halloween, I blew through a bunch of Amicus horror anthology movies. The British studio that just cranked them out for years in the 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. Those are much more entertaining if you can track those down, watch those. Those things are a lot of fun. Do not watch this. If you've had a chance to see it, I'm curious for your thoughts. I need to know. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. All right, Matt, it's time to talk about what's coming up on physical media this upcoming Tuesday.
Oh, God, this place. Steve should never have opened this place again. There's been too much trouble here. Did you know that a young boy drowned the year before those 2 others were killed? The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned. His name was Jason. I was working the day that it happened, preparing meals. Here, I was the cook. Jason should have been watched every minute. He wasn't a very good swimmer. We can go now, dear.
I think we should wait for Mr. Christie.
Oh, that's not necessary.
I don't understand.
I am Jason.
Oh, Mrs. Voorhees. All right, so there you go, folks. The Friday the 13th collection from Scream Factory is being released this upcoming Tuesday. That is October 13th. Matt, I pre-ordered this Bad Bear. I'm very excited to get it. Out of all the classics, your Michael Myers, your Freddy Kruegers, your Leatherfaces, Jason was always my guy. So I pre-ordered this one. Matt, you get 4K scans, brand new 4K scans of the first film. It also includes the uncut version on a separate disc. You have part 2, part 3, the final chapter. All have brand new 4K scans. We don't do 4K scans for the rest of them after that. We get a couple 2K scans on Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. And we do include the unrated version of Jason Goes to Hell, which has not been available on Blu-ray until now. But one misfire is that it doesn't have the unrated version of the 2009 remake, the Killer Cut as it's known. I don't quite know why, but they don't. They must just not have been able to secure the rights to that. I have that Blu-ray, so I'm not too worried about it, but that seems like a weird miss to me. Includes a bunch of slash scenes, brand new audio commentary, and more. But one of the key things is that it includes a kill from, I think it's part 2, that was thought lost. It's a couple lost scenes that they found in some place, and they don't look great, but they're watchable. I think they were from a VHS copy of something, I don't know. But a couple legendary kills from part 2 that were thought lost forever have been restored. They're special features. They're not incorporated back into the film just because the quality of them is so poor. But it has the long-awaited uncut gore footage from part 2 people have been clamoring for years. So I'm excited to get this and see if I can dive in right around Halloween. We have 2 bonus discs of brand new material as well. A bunch of archival footage included, but in a really nifty looking box. If you ordered it right from Scream Factory, Matt, you got like a lithograph and some other stuff. But what am I going to do? Frame a Friday the 13th lithograph on my wall? Come on. But still, it's coming out so you can pick that up. One of their new releases, Batman, Death in the Family. This is the animated version of the classic tale of Robin's death at the hands of the Joker. This features Bruce Greenwood as Batman. Has some audio commentaries as well. Cats and Dogs 3, Matt, Paws Unite. This one's for you and the kid. It's been 10 years since the creation of the Great Truce, an elaborate joint species surveillance system designed and monitored by cats and dogs to keep the peace when conflicts arise. But when a tech-savvy villain hacks into wireless networks to use frequencies only cats and dogs can hear, he manipulates them into conflict, Matt. And the worldwide battle between the cats and the dogs is back on. Have you seen the other Cats and Dogs films? There's been 2 prior ones.
No, I have not.
Well, now you got a trilogy to catch up with. The documentary, The Dog Doc, it's about Marty Goldstein, who has been called the Maverick, Miracle Worker, and the Quack. He focuses on holistic treatment for animals and not just, medications and surgeries and stuff like that. Basically, I think he's like a vegan doc for dogs. It's a pretty good documentary, actually. We watched it. The Doorman, starring Ruby Rose and Jean Reno, is coming out. Ruby plays Allie Gorski, a highly decorated ex-military sergeant turned doorman of the Carrington. During Easter weekend, while all but few of the tenants are away, the Carrington is under renovations, but a seedy plot to steal priceless artwork hidden deep within the walls of the building ensues. Includes a featurette on the making of the film. A film called Killer Weekend, starring Michael Biehn. First-run favorite. A sexy young co-ed, I don't think he plays that role, enjoys a lavish lifestyle thanks to her sugar daddy dating app, which gives her access to money by having them killed. She soon meets her match, however, in a rich, new, handsome boyfriend who happens to also be a serial killer. What are you going to do? Criminal Audition, listen, folks, it's like all straight-to-DVD stuff right now. Criminal Audition, an ex-lawyer and his team run an underworld service providing fake criminals to take on other people's crimes. But a dangerous turn happens when their new client turns their world upside down as they face lies, deceit, and murder over the course of one night. Jonathan Lipnicki, Matt, is in the film Broil. Remember Lips there? From Jerry Maguire?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Alyssa's granddaughter, Chan Sinclair, is sentenced to live with her draconian grandfather, August, after a violent incident at school and begins to question the source of her family's immense wealth and power. New to Blu-ray, the Breaking Bad movie El Camino is being released. Get a steelbook from Best Buy. Features audio commentary with Vince Gilligan and Aaron Paul, deleted and extended scenes, a gag reel, and more. I'm actually thinking about picking this up. I know it's on Netflix, but obviously you're not going to have access to these features.
Right.
And you never know when Netflix is going to pull something, so I may pick this one up. The documentary Terror in the Aisles is being released from Scream. Do you remember this, Matt? You may be too young for this.
No, I don't remember it.
It's a compilation film of trailers and scenes from science fiction and crime films and horror films from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was out of print for a very long time. It was tagged on to the original Halloween 2 Blu-ray release as a special feature, and is now getting its own outright release because it was only available as a special feature on that disc. Arrow is giving us a limited edition version of Mallrats. Includes the theatrical and extended cuts of the film, as well as the TV version, which has just, all the profanity dubbed out, which is supposed to be hilarious. And that TV version, folks, is exclusive to this initial run. So if you want to pick this up, you got to get this now. A whole bunch of other featurettes as well. I'm back and forth on this because I'm not a big Mallrats fan, but I think what's going to make me pull the trigger is that TV version. Matt, I feel like this is a film you will have seen. I've never seen it. The Last Starfighter.
I have seen it.
So you have seen a special release from Arrow. Is it like a reverse Ender's Game where the aliens come and they draft this kid because he does well at the video games?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it's basically the video game's supposed to be like a pilot simulator for their fighter pilots.
So there you go. Brand new 4K restoration of the film from the original camera negative, brand new audio commentaries, some archived ones as well. The first pressing has a limited edition O-card, a reversible poster is included as well, and more. Arrow is also giving us a warning from space. A group of starfish-like aliens come to Earth to warn mankind about a runaway planetoid known as Planet R that is on a collision course with Earth. A high-definition presentation. Some new English subtitles. This is a Japanese film. Brand new commentary by Stuart Galbraith IV, author of Monsters Are Attacking Tokyo, and more. This is the first HD transfer of the film available in the States, so you may want to pick this up. Criterion is giving us Claudine. In 1970s Harlem, garbage collector Roop feels intimidated by the idea of dating Claudine, who was a single mother of 6 on welfare. A brand new 4K restoration of that film. A new conversation between filmmaker Robert Townsend and programmer Ashley Clark. An archival audio commentary from 2003 featuring cast and crew, Diane Carroll, James Earl Jones, and more. And then, of course, an illustrated audio excerpts from the 1974 AFI Harold Lloyd Master Seminar featuring Carroll. Warner Archive is giving us Reversal of Fortune, the film starring Glenn Close, Jeremy Irons, Ron Silver, and Annabella Sciorra. This is the film about the Klaus Van Buren trial. Sergeant York, featuring Gary Cooper and Howard Hawks. It's a brand new 4K restoration. Warner Archive is also giving us Space Ghost and Dino Boy, the complete animated series. Kino is giving us Deep Star 6. Remember we had that run of ocean horror sci-fi movies, Leviathan, Deep Star 6, and of course, The Abyss. Well, you can check this one out, includes an audio commentary by the director Sean Cunningham and the visual effects supervisor James Isaacs and more. But I understand The Abyss is on Amazon Prime now. I have never seen it.
Oh, you should. Check it out.
It's not the full version, though. It's just the theatrical cut.
Gotcha.
That's another one of those films that just has never been released since DVD, right? Or maybe even VHS. Has it ever had a DVD release? It must have.
I think it has a DVD release. I might have it on DVD.
Okay. Well, there's that. Paranoia Agent, which is an anime film, getting a Best Buy Steelbook release. 2 4K releases, District 9, which features a Best Buy Steelbook, and then Requiem for a Dream, just in time for the holidays. Your straight-to-DVD pick of the week is Weed G's Halloween Night Special Edition. Move over, ghoulies. There are some new critters in town. It's the eve of Halloween in Las Vegas, and 3 enterprising young ladies are throwing a massive 420 gala. That's marijuana talk for the kids, all right? But little do they know, they're also going to unleash a freakish gaggle of party-loving nightmare creatures from beyond. In the tradition of Empire Pictures' classic horror comedy Ghoulies, The Deadly 10 presents a new original tale that's destined to become an instant full moon favorite. When a midnight scavenger hunt for a rare bud of weed known as the Golden Nug brings a group of party-hungry stoners to a haunted hotel, it seems like it'll be the greatest night ever. But when the enigmatic owner Madam Hayes introduces them to the Weed G board, let me break that down for you folks. Weed, as in marijuana, the letter G, board, like Ouija, but it's weed. Let me slow it down. WEED GBOARD. Weed G board. Pot. They open up a portal behind our world and unleash the Weed Gs. This group of ghastly, hysterical creatures has only one mission, Matt. Party till you die. Before Halloween night is over, the unwitting guests will have to fight for their right to party and put the Weed Gs back in the board or end up sucked into the netherworld forever. A bunch of special features on this, including a Howard Stern show clip, so I guess they must have been on there, some featurettes, and then a feature-length documentary of the making of the film. So if you're a Weed G's fan, this one's for you. Matt, what should we be streaming this week?
I'm going to recommend a new documentary that's came out a couple of weeks ago on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. It's all about the rise of social media, kind of effect it's having on us as a society, as well as on our children and our family unit. And it's all narrated by people who were involved in the creation of these companies from Facebook to Instagram and the kind of things that they did to keep people using and what it seems like it's kind of gotten out of their control with the things that they've written and the things that they've done. So it's a really interesting take on things. I put my score on Letterboxd and I read some of the Letterboxd reviews, and it's interesting to see all of what I have to assume are people who are much younger than me, who grew up with social media, talking about how much BS it is, or how cringy it is. And for somebody like me, it's like, holy crap, that's crazy. So worth a watch.
It's all designed to do that. That's what YouTube does too, right? The algorithm is designed to get you to keep watching. And other sites too.
Well, and that's why they were like, in one thing that I thought was interesting was you see the rise of things like Pizzagate and QAnon and stuff like that, and that's all due to the algorithm. So it's like, you've looked into stuff about chemtrails, so here's this site about QAnon. So these things that would normally stay, incredibly small and would get no traction, get all these audiences because it's automatically sharing them with like-minded individuals, whether how wrong it is.
Cool. And where can I watch it again? Netflix, yeah. Sweet. So, Matt, what else is going on in the movie world right now?
Well, I think we should go back to our what are the odds? I don't remember what it was, but you can stick a fork in us for the year. We're done. I mean, there are no major releases coming out for the rest of 2020. They've all been pushed back to 2021.
Well, Wonder Woman's still Christmas, right? Isn't that still technically a Christmas Day release?
Is it?
I think so, because I tweeted out that it was over. But then I pulled up the Wonder Woman 84 release date, and it says Christmas Day. And that Tom Hanks Western is coming out Christmas Day, supposedly, too, by Greengrass. But we'll see. December 25th, United States. Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that I guarantee you that will be changing. If COVID continues to go the way it's going, with Regal Cineworld closing down its U.S. theaters.
Supposedly temporarily.
Supposedly. And here's the thing. I was looking at the 2021 calendar. There's a few things coming out in the first 3 months of the year, but not much. Antlers, Ghostbusters, and I'll be surprised if those things happen. So, and I had to do it, Chris. I pulled the trigger finally.
You canceled your AMC A-list?
I canceled my A-list, yeah.
Did you stick with Premiere? Because I think with Premiere, you can still earn the benefits. You just don't get the free tickets.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't give me that option. It just said cancel A-list. I can't sign up for another 6 months, but I kind of did the math in my head. That means April, May timeframe when I'll be able to sign back up. And by then, if I have to pay possibly out of pocket for a handful of movies that are going to come out, it's better than the, guaranteed, $150 or $125 that I'm going to lose, not seeing anything.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I still have $10 worth of rewards I haven't used either, sitting there that I will lose. So, yeah. But that's what is that? The fallacy of sunken costs. I'm going to pay them
sunk cost, yeah,
so much money to get something that,
yeah. Well, when was the last time you went to the movies?
It was Tenet.
Okay,
right.
So normally we would have seen 3 or 4 theatrical films by now, and you don't have another one coming on the horizon, so you're just paying them whatever it is, $25.
I'm looking at it as a donation right now to help keep them afloat, but is that my responsibility? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the studio's responsibility because they're not going to have any place to show their movies if they don't figure it out.
To be perfectly frank about it, I think it's the government's responsibility.
Think so?
Fund this. Oh, yeah. I think the government should be funding like the airlines, all this stuff. Basically, you should be paying people to stay home right now. We could knock this thing out by Christmas. If everybody wore masks and everybody stayed home and just paid people like $2-3 a month, we'd be done with this by the end of the year. But I
don't know. I agree that the government should be funding the airlines. It's a service that is required. But I never sat well with the government funding the arts kind of thing, like as the sole source of revenue. Like,
well, not sole.
But I mean, there's a reason why, for nothing else, the United States entertainment industry is the top in the world because we're the only one in the world that doesn't have that kind of thing.
Yeah, but these are unusual circumstances. I wouldn't normally say. I do think the government should fund the arts because you wouldn't want to live in a society that didn't have a thriving art community. You just wouldn't want to do it. And the way our economic system is set up, it doesn't provide for that. So there has to be some public funding of the arts. So I just think in these kind of times, I think it would make sense to maintain your theaters, your venues, all of that stuff. Also, too, you'll keep paying those industries to pay those people, which I think helps as well, the economy, because people continue to have jobs. So but I'm a big commie cuck. I'm not a commie.
No, that's fine. I mean, I just struggle with it because
Demsock, I think is what the kids would call me.
Bailing out the airlines, and it's like, okay, you bailed them out, and then they're just going to gouge the hell out of us. Just come up with more fees and
in my world, there would be strings attached to all of this stuff. But that's unfortunately not how things work. I'm right. Yeah, there's not like Annabelle, The War with Grandpa. That's new. Infidel, Broken Hearts Gallery, Last Shift. You know what? Here's the thing. Greenlight is opening up in St. Pete, which is a little independent cinema. And I think next week they're getting Possessor.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to go down there and go watch it because I just want to support that guy who's running his little independent movie theater. And I got to put my money where my mouth is and hopefully it doesn't kill me. Or I go buy a ticket and then just walk out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But still, I might be doing that. Maybe that's what I'll do. So I don't know. But we will be doing, that's another thing too. You can just ignore our calendar that's pinned in our Twitter page right now because we're going day by day. Outside of maybe the second film run, because we do have that marathon coming up at the end of the year, which is really going to be the cherry on top of this year. Some of the stuff we have to watch for that thing is really going to turn the corner and bring some joy into our lives. But I don't know. I think for the most part, outside of Wonder Woman, which I agree with you, will get postponed, we're done. I don't see any big releases coming this year. I think that's a wrap. And we'll see what happens. What kills me is all the DC slate stuff getting pushed back even farther. Right? Batman is now 2022.
Right.
Yeah, and the new Shazam film is 2024 or 3 or something like that. These kids are all going to be in their 30s. The Shazam family by then. They're all going to be shaving, even the girls maybe by that point. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a dark time, folks. It's a dark time. And the worst thing about all of this stuff is you're going to have, when this is all clear and done, if there's still a republic by the end of this, you're going to have fewer options.
Right.
It's going to be more large chains. Because they're the only ones that will really be able to survive this. And they're going to gobble up all of this. So I'm not just talking movies. I'm talking restaurants, mom and pop stores. All that stuff are going to be gone. But it's infuriating to me. And I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, Matt. I really don't know.
No good. Really bad for you. Not good. Believe me, not good.
Not good. It'll be interesting, though. I can almost see like a shift, like a split between the two of us because most folks, I don't know if you know, longtime listeners will know, but Chris and I are separated by 1,200 miles.
Yep.
And where I live in the country, come March, it's going to still be 30 degrees outside and snowing, whereas Chris, it'll be like 95 degrees. So it'll be interesting to see if COVID maybe slows down some where he is, where maybe I'm still stuck inside for multiple reasons and not able to see films. Then what are we going to do?
I'm really curious about what's going to happen with the flu season hitting. Because, well, like you said, we won't have to be trapped indoors like you will. So, I don't know. But you also have more capable leadership in Connecticut than we do down here.
Oh, yeah. We're doing pretty well. Connecticut's doing leader for the country. But, and your leadership is a joke. So, there's that mitigating.
I am sitting in a room full of fucking idiots. You dumb motherfuckers.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Everything is horrible, like I say. But all right, let's try and have some fun, Matt. And let's keep the train going. It's going to be our final film in our Neo-Noir Marathon. Let's spend a few minutes talking about Chinatown and its director, who I'll refer to simply just as the director throughout the entire segment.
Going to be a lot of irate citizens when they find out that they're paying for water that they're not going to get.
Oh, that's all taken care of. See, Mr. Gitz, either you bring the water to L.A. or you bring L.A. to the water.
How are you going to do that?
By incorporating the valley into the city. Simple as that.
How much are you worth?
I've no idea. How much do you want?
No, I just want to know what you're worth. Over 10 million?
Oh, my, yes.
Why are you doing it? How much better can you eat? What can you buy that you can't already afford?
The future, Mr. Gitz. The future. Now, where's the girl? I want the only daughter I've got left. As you found out, Evelyn was lost to me a long time ago.
Who do you blame for that? Her?
I don't blame myself. See, Mr. Gitz, most people never have to face the fact that at the right time and the right place, they're capable of anything.
I love that Houston's Noah Cross always refers to him as Gitz, even though he's corrected many times by Nicholson as Gittis. But he does it because he just doesn't care. He's so insignificant to him that that it does not matter to him. So Jack Nicholson. So Jack Nicholson plays J.J. Gittis. He is a private detective hired by few people to figure some stuff out that's going on in California. A woman's husband. First, they say maybe she's being cheated on by her husband, so he's hired to follow him around. Turns out, though, that woman that hired him is not actually the man's wife. They just wanted to know what he was up to. Then his wife actually shows up and hires him to find out who may have done something to her husband. I don't know how spoilery we want to get. And then Nicholson gets caught in this kind of, not quite LA underworld, but this big plot about water rights and what's going to happen with the expansion of LA. But meanwhile, there's some really deep, dark secret hidden in this family. And Matt, it's considered to be a classic film, one of the best films ever made. So let me ask you, Chinatown, archetype noir or overinflated 70s indulgent cinema?
I would say it's I think it hits the kind of archetype of neo-noir. I mean, it has all of the trappings of a classic 30s 40s noir film. It's got the hard-boiled private detective in Jack Nicholson's character. It's got the dame in trouble who may be a femme fatale in Faye Dunaway's character, and then it's just got an entire cast of sleazy, nasty people and just some shocking twists that as we go through the whole thing. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, I agree. It's our first traditional noir, I think, right, Matt, out of all the films we've watched. Yeah. And it is a pitch-perfect example of it. This thing's exceptionally crafted by the director, and I think that Nicholson brings... What's different about his character that I think why it's so iconic in this kind of role is he brings a fallibility to the role, right? You look at all these older films, your Kiss Me Deadlies, your Maltese Falcons, all these films, that the guys, they get their butts kicked, but they're still always, these tough guys. And in here, Nicholson, it's not so much that he's sensitive or vulnerable. I guess maybe at times he is, but sometimes he's just caught in the wave of all these events. And he's not really the driving force behind the narrative. And he brings, as I said, this fallibility that he's just kind of figuring out what the hell's going on and just reacting to things as they happen around him and just basically trying to survive. But he still has those noir, character sensibilities for his role, the typical things that are assigned to that type of performance. So I thought he was fantastic in this. Same with Faye Dunaway. I think she brings a real depth to this character and is revealed to be really, in the end, the only truly altruistic character in the entire film. Right? She's set up as this femme fatale archetype classic thing, but that's not who she is at all, as the film reveals to you as it progresses. I think that's why it's so successful, is that while I don't want to say it doesn't really pay homage, but it runs as this just kind of classic film noir, but there's so much more going on underneath the thin veneer of the story of what it's telling you. It's very intricate, but really in the end of it, it's really about something else entirely. And I think that's why it works so well. It's loosely based on this kind of urban legend about the founding of Los Angeles and really its expansion. A truly dark story that's possibly faithful to the soul of its director. I don't know. What do you think about it? What would you like to say?
Like you said, I think it's the most accessible, or at least the most traditional version of the noir film. This is kind of like the classic neo-noir, kind of based on this marathon that we've had. Everything else has trappings of it or bits of it, but is not kind of like the base off of the skeleton of a neo-noir. And it was, just a stone cold classic. I mean, obviously you can watch these things, bits and pieces of the famous scenes, and I'm like, when they came up, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of this, or I've seen this before. And just the performances are fantastic. It looks great. The director did a phenomenal job, which is not really a commentary on what he's like as a person, but I would say it's definitely a film that's worth watching for anybody who's a student of film, for sure.
Yeah, I think then we're both in the same boat, Matt, where we're familiar with it and had seen bits of it, but never the whole thing from start to finish. Is that accurate?
Correct. That's correct, yes.
Okay, so same here. And there are a lot of things to really love and appreciate this film. One of the little things that really jumped out at me is when Nicholson and Dunaway have their intimate moments. There's this post-coital scene, and there's this ticking clock you can hear in the background the entire time, which really is just a metaphor for their relationship and what's about to happen. As they become more intimate and more close, but as things become more and more revealed, what's really going to end up happening between the two of them and each of their characters individually, and what that ticking clock signifies. I mean, lots of little things like that. And it's absolutely gut-wrenching ending and all of the horrible implications that play out because of it, right? Mm-hmm. And what's the great thing about it, as the director doesn't show us that, right? We see what happens at the end, and the way he frames that particular shot with Houston's character cross over the young woman, right? And everything that kind of happens. You know now, as Nicholson gets dragged away, and you have that classic, it's Chinatown line, right? And you just see everything. That basically after everything that he's tried to do, nothing is going to change. And in fact, things are going to get worse. And it is really it's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I appreciated most about this film. I think it's the most subtle of the films that we've seen so far, where the director, screenwriter, just the entirety of the story, even the twists and stuff, they've got a subtleness to them. They require at least you to kind of be paying attention to kind of put the pieces together, which I really appreciated. As good as a lot of the other films were, they were a lot more kind of like, bam, here this is in your face, and this is what we're going to show you kind of thing, whereas this is much more subtle, all to the better of its benefit.
Yeah, and I will say, too, the director does a great job setting up the environment. I mean, the set design and the atmosphere does feel very much of its time, except there is a very distinct 70s feel to it. It does seem like a film made in the 70s during that whole director-auteur era before the studios wrestled control of everything back. But this is right at the end of that. In fact, especially Ben Affleck is looking to make a film about that, about the making of Chinatown and how it's the end of that 70s Hollywood period. If I did change anything to fix that, air quotes, I may have used a little bit more of a washed out color palette or something to kind of add some age to it, to give it more of a timeless feel. So even though it captures that time, it still feels very much of a 70s film to me. Some other things too, in regards to, like we mentioned, Affleck wanted to make a film about it. Netflix was courting a prequel series about Geddes as he's setting up his agency and kind of how he became who he was in Chinatown. I don't know if that's actually happening or not. And of course, Matt Reeves has stated that Chinatown is a major influence on the Batman. So we'll kind of have to see how that shakes out as well.
Interesting.
Any final thoughts on Chinatown? Matt, you want to give me a grade?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it an A. I think it's going to be a bunch of A minuses to an A. We're going to end on a strong note.
I agree. I gave Chinatown an A as well. Chinatown is not available to stream on any service right now. You have to rent it. So, but you can get it for about what, $4 to $5, depending on what service you use. If you've seen this classic film, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. So as we wrap up, Matt, our marathon, it's time to give out our awards. So let's wrap this big show up, and then we'll tell you what the categories are, and we'll tell you who won right after this.
Well, Professor Duride has a little advice for you. You shouldn't damn him. Don't judge him. Just forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Well, why do you hate my father?
I don't hate him at all. Oh, no. I pray for him. I'm here to help him. I mean, we all make mistakes, Danielle. You and I have, but at least we try to admit it, don't we?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But your daddy, he don't. Every man carries a circle of hell around his head like a halo. Your daddy, too. Every man has to go through hell to reach his paradise. You know what paradise is?
No.
Salvation. Because your daddy's not happy. Your mommy's not happy. And you know what? You're not happy. Are you?
No, I'm not.
Of course, that's Juliette Lewis and Robert De Niro from Scorsese's Cape Fear, or as I refer to it as we finally watched it, basically Scorsese doing Hitchcock with his Cape Fear adaptation. So, Matt, it's our Marathon Award times. Here are the categories, folks. Hard-boiled lead. Who gave us the best male hard-boiled lead performance? Who was the fatalist femme? Who was the best director? Which film had the best twist, and what was it? And then finally, of course, what was the best film in the marathon? Matt, start us off. Who was the hard-boiledest lead?
So I went back and forth. And I'm still kind of undecided. So I'm going to go with Jack Nicholson in Chinatown. I think his Geddes is the quintessential hard-boiled detective out of all of the people we've seen. But if you're talking about who's the hardest person in the films, that would be Robert De Niro's Katie, who is a terrifying figure. But I'm going to go with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, if you went with the spirit of what we were saying, basically it's just a hyperbolic version of Best Actor, then I agree with you. It would definitely be Jack Nicholson. If we wanted to go literal with that topic, with that subject, then it would be De Niro. But I'm right in line with you. It is Nicholson, of course. It was just listen to what we said in the previous segment. He brings a real kind of just almost an everyman quality to that hard-boiled detective thing, and it's very successful.
So, Chris, who is the fataliest femme for you?
Well, I think, Matt, this is a layup, really, for me. Faye Dunaway delivers a fantastic performance in Chinatown, but Nina Haas as Nellie Lenz, and that's final 5 minutes of Phoenix, which is one of the most devastating endings in a film I can recall of the past 10 years. That alone is what pushes her over the top for me. So I ended up giving it to Haas as Nellie Lenz, because that performance, not only throughout the film, which is exceptionally layered and just heartbreaking, sad, but when she gets that moment at the end, I mean, Matt, right now I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So I went with Haas.
I would go with Haas as well if we were talking if you're talking the best actress in these films, but I went with the embodiment of the femme fatale in this. So I went with Angelica Houston in The Grifters. Somebody who sells out her own son and leads to his downfall is just some cold-blooded S. So I had to go with Angelica Houston for that one.
Yeah, again, if you're going literal with the title, I think Houston is the right call. But overall, I still think the best performance, it does belong to Haas. All right, Matt, who directed the hell out of these movies the most?
Well, there were a lot of great directors in this. I loved Scorsese aping Hitchcock. For all of his faults, the director, this is a classic film for a reason in Chinatown, but I think the true answer is Park Chan-wook for The Handmaiden. It's the most gorgeous film by far of any of the ones we've seen. It's just stunning to look at. It's fantastic.
Once again, Matt, I'm inclined to agree with you. It is Park Chan-wook. Just that film is immaculate, and he needs to receive that praise for it. So he clearly was the best director of this marathon.
Yeah. So what's the twist? Which is the twist? And This will be an interesting one because we've ruined some twists and others we've kept very
That's true.
close to the chest. So I don't know what you're going to talk about here.
So I think it probably should be Chinatown's reveal with Faye Dunaway's character, but I think that's also so ingrained in culture it didn't have the same impact on me that the winner is, which was the initial turn in Handmaiden. Now there's a few more as it plays out, but that moment when they go up to the asylum was I almost stood up off of my couch like, what? So that was my favorite of the series.
Yeah, so I think we're right in line here. So I was debating on the first twist in The Handmaiden, but then I thought the subsequent twists, I thought there were just too many of them that kind of weakened the whole thing for me. I went with the Chinatown twist. Obviously, I knew somewhere in the back of my brain when it happened, but I didn't remember the entirety of when I was watching it. And then when it hit, it took a few beats to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. And it's still that initial, impressions, it still hit me with its full force. So I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah. Good for you. All right, Matt, so here's the big one. In the end, out of watching all of these films, The Grifters, Cape Fear, The Handmaiden, Phoenix, and Chinatown, which was the best film?
For me, I think I gave all of them an A-, except for Chinatown, which I gave an A. So I'm going to have to go with Chinatown.
I don't want it to be so, Matt, but it is. Chinatown is the best film of the marathon. I could be swayed to Handmaiden if you get enough drinks in me, if I get particularly more angry at that director of the Chinatown. But still, in the end, it is, I think, the best film in the series. So I think that's what I went with as well. So just to run it down here, Matt, I think I have it right here. The Grifters, I gave a B+. You gave an A-. Cape Fear, B+ again for me, A- for you. The Handmaiden, A for me, A- for you. You are consistent. And then, of course, as we said, Chinatown, A's across the board.
What did we get? Phoenix. I think
Phoenix?
maybe I gave Phoenix a B+.
Phoenix?
I might have given, yeah.
All right. Where's the Phoenix, as the kids say? How many times have I said that phrase today? Entirely too many. Oh, that's because you know what it is? On my little notebook, I have a format that I do it in, and in this particular one, I reversed the format, which screwed me up. B+ me, A- you.
Okay, so I gave everyone A's all around. I thought this was a great marathon. We've had some pretty weak marathons this year, but I thought this one was really solid.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So there you go, folks. That's a wrap of our Neo-Noir Marathon. Probably, as Matt said, one of the best marathons we've done. Our next marathon starts Thanksgiving Day weekend, I think it is. And it's our banned marathon, films that have been banned at some point or another. It's The Last Temptation of Christ, The Devils, Pink Flamingos, Cannibal Holocaust, no animal death version. We are not going to watch that. And then finally, to start the New Year's Eve right, we're going to be talking about Sallow. So look forward to that. In the meantime, Matt, we basically have a month and a half or so to really clean that palette as much as we possibly can. But we're going to try and do some Halloween stuff. It's horror time, or as they say in the networks, it's spooky time. We are, I guess, going to do Vast of Night next, and we have Enola Holmes on there, but I feel like we should push that to November and really just go all out in the horror. But so we'll discuss that off air. In the meantime, what are your thoughts of our marathon? Shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com, thoughts on Chinatown, all that stuff. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. Go ahead and go over to Apple Podcasts. Give us a review. I'll read it on the air, and I'll help other people find the show. Help us help you by helping us. All right, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. I'm going to take an extended break, and we will see you soon.
Welcome, my darklings. My name is Morella, and this is Verotika.